Hey, Micah Rimshaw here. I'm going to give you a quick walkabout of the setup in the studio for this week's session. Yesterday I showed you around the control room and how the desks are set up and everything. Today I'm going to walk you quickly around the live room and show you around. So let me flip the camera around. This is still very early in the day. I haven't had my coffee yet. Okay, so we're set up with a 6-piece group to make a jazz record this week. Well, it's jazz with elements of rock and roll and rockabilly, psychobilly, all kinds of amazing stuff. But it's great. It's a sort of an international lineup. We've got 3 musicians from Spain. Yeah, it's great. So I'm going to start with the drums. I've got everybody set up because we're recording everything live, including a lot of the vocals. We made the decision that we wanted to have make most use of the room in terms of the spill on the mics from the drums onto the vocals and things like this. A lot of the time you actually try and avoid this, but for this record, this sort of homogeneous sound is really a big part of what we're going for. So with the drums, it's pretty standard stuff, nothing out of the ordinary. I've got a pair of beautiful vintage 70s U87s as overheads. These are really capturing sort of detail on the cymbals. They're probably, I don't know, maybe a metre or so above. They look like they're sort of, they're not going to be in stereo because they're at sort of different angles and different, so that they don't look equidistant, but they are actually the same distance from the snare and in line with the kick. So when I just solo those up, hand fairly hard left and right, the kick and the snare are pretty much in the centre and they feel really solid. Those are going through the Decca console, so those are going through Valve mic amps and they sound gorgeous. I've also got this fantastic ribbon mic, which is an AEA reissue of the R44. I've got a matched pair of those. The other is on the double bass, and these have got a slightly stronger magnet in, so they've got in theory 6 dB more gain, which is great. And this is again, this is sort of equidistant from the snare and the kick. I wasn't planning on using this mic with the Neumanns, but actually when we blended it in, it sounds great. I set it up because I know there are some tracks where I want an even a more sort of old sort of sepia kind of sound, and they're so smooth sounding, these mics. It's great for that, but actually it's got this great sort of knocking mid-range sound to it without any EQ, which is beautiful. So again, that's going through the Decca and going straight into the converters. What else have we got? Again, really straightforward. I've got a 57 on snare, a 41 on the rack tom, and a large diaphragm dynamic, which is a D12, which I love, on the floor tom. Then I've got this mic here, which is great. This is just another 57, and this on some tracks may just be the drum sound. I've got this going through a little bit of compression and a little bit of EQ to just notch out a couple of things and just add a little bit more weight to it. I did a video on this for record production, which I'll link to, which sounds great. Probably a little bit unusual. For the hi-hats, I've got a 441, which is probably my favorite dynamic mic. I absolutely love it. A lot of times we'll use maybe a small diaphragm condenser if we're recording the hi-hats. In this instance, because of the, how can I put it, because there's so much spill from the cymbals and sort of airiness on other mics that are around, like for example the vocal mic, I didn't want more sort of bright brash top end. I just wanted the option to sort of add a little more detail to stuff, sort of bring it into focus if there was a bit of sort of delicate hi-hat stuff going on, or something that was really integral to the groove. And this mic does it great. It's so directional that it's really not, the amount of snare and crash it's picking up is pretty negligible, so that's working a treat. You'll probably notice that the mics I've got are fairly well backed off. That's how I hear drums and how my choice would be. Sometimes you have to mic them closer if you're going for a particular thing, but for this kind of music where the drums are really open and ringing, it is more of a drum kit sound, a sort of homogeneous instrument of its own, rather than sort of a snare drum, a tom-tom, a kick drum all separated out. That's great, but that's not what we're doing here. I've got the mics pulled back, and a trick I got from a fantastic engineer, Dennis Weinreich, when he was in a few years ago, was, hey, just point the mics where the drummer is hitting the instrument, be it the drum head or the cymbals, and you're going to get the most attack. And it sounds obvious, it is obvious, but it works a treat, and that's generally my starting place 90% of the time. So yeah, for the overheads, we used a piece of mic cable, not to sort of measure out an exact distance, but just to get them, as I say, equidistant from the snare. And then on the kick drum, again, really basic. We've got a D12 inside, and we've got this really cool little Earthworks mic with I think they call it a kick pad. It's basically just an attenuator and a smiley, well, an EQ with loads of low end, rolls off some top, and cuts some sort of 200 hertz, I think, or something around there. It works great. I've still got some EQ going on. Those are being bussed to a single track. Same with the snare, top and bottom. Oh yeah, on the snare we've got an Aston Stealth. Yeah, it's fine. It's just capturing what it needs. A little trick that I have with the kick drum, I don't think there's any scientific basis for it, but it works for me. I'll have the drummer play, and I'll put my hand just around here, and there's a little sort of boundary where I'm not feeling the air moving so much from the kick drum. And for me, that's where I generally place this mic. I've no idea why it would work, but 9 times out of 10 or more, it does. So yeah, that's cool. That's a little tip for you. Then moving over to bass area, you can see I've got these set up really close together because with drums and double bass in the room, there's going to be spill from the drums onto the double bass mic. It's just the way it is. So I want that to be as tight and in time as possible. So for example, if we had the double bass 30 feet at the other end of the room, it's going to be delayed at least 30 milliseconds, and it's going to be pretty horrendous. So with this, it sounds great. We were going to use a U47 FET on the bass. We hired one in, it didn't work. There we go. So we made an adjustment, no big deal. Again, we've got a beautiful ribbon mic, and initially I had this a little bit lower. There was just a bit more low end than I wanted, a little bit sort of woofy. So we just moved it up a little bit, and we're getting just a bit more definition, but we've still got that amazing weight. We've got a fantastic bass player, Ian Jennings, on this session, who the sound he makes is just incredible. It's so balanced, but there's just such a heft to it. It's great. You'll also notice these screens. These are actually what we use for a drum riser. There are 2 more, one over there and one in the booth. And these are sort of way more heavy duty than even the Audio Kinetic screens that we've got sort of lying around, which are great. I've got the wooden side on the drums because I wanted a bit more splash, and I've got this side, which is this is filled with about 6 inches of rock wool, and it really soaks up some stuff. I mean, we use them in bass traps, so it works great. I mean, I don't know if you can hear if I just click my fingers. Yeah, that's not happening really, but you can hear just on your voice the difference in sound, so that's helping a bit as well. I've also got this mic. This is a figure of 8 mic, so it's rejecting sounds incredibly from the sides. The amount of rejection is crazy. I mean, it's just physics. It's a very thin piece of ribbon suspended, and obviously on the thin side it doesn't pick up the air movements as much, but that works a treat, and so this has been really good. Okay, so what else? Yeah, we've got a lovely Acme Motown reissued DI that I've had for a lot of years. Again, pick up on double bass. It's not going to be the first thing we're going to go to, but it does sound great. It adds a little bit of weight, and it could be useful for some things. There might be a couple of tracks that feature double bass, and in that case I might swap this mic out and put a pair of mics in, so we get a bit more detail, one sort of a bit further up the fingerboard and one sort of in a similar place, but we'll just see how it goes. What else have we got? So piano, there are mics inside. I'm not going to show you those today because I don't want them to fall off, and they're positioned really well. But yeah, if you're interested, leave a comment and I'll show you how we do that. Vocal mic, really simple, just a 47. I'm riding the gain on this a little bit to tape, very minimal, just a dB or 2, but it makes a difference. Then we've got acoustic classical sort of Spanish guitar here, and again, there's lots of spill, but we've positioned things so they sound good. Got some screens around. It's just a 414, which is a really great mic actually. It's a great mic. It's got loads of body to it, loads of weight, but there's a sort of a nice top end that I've been able to just add a hint of EQ, which is working good. So yeah, that's that. The Rhodes we're DIing because obviously proximity of it, we don't need the amp sound, we've got plenty of that if we need it. The Hammond we're going to be setting up and using probably for overdubs. I might just mic that with a single ribbon mic sort of 10 feet back, because for the role I think it's going to be playing, it's going to be sat fairly back, so we don't need the sort of the stereo miking full spread thing. It's just a tone really. So yeah, that's that. What else in the booth? We have got, it looks a bit of a mess, doesn't it? But it's, you know, it's a workspace, so it's cool. We have a fabulous guitarist, and we've just got an old PV Classic 30, which actually belongs to my dad. It's a really great sounding amp, and we've just got some Sennheiser mics on the front and back, and I've got an Earthworks mic pointing at the ceiling, and those are all going through the Decker. We're doing some Rycuda sort of S kind of sounds, which will be quite ambient. So for those, we're probably just going to open up the door to the main room, and yeah, we'll capture it on some of these mics that are already here. So that's the setup for this week. Something will probably change in it, but that's where we are today. I nearly completely forgot. Here's Tiger, our wonderful studio cat, who's decided to camp out on his rug in the vocal booth. So I don't know how long that's going to last for, but he seems pretty content there at the moment.